Hi everyone, this is Angela Overton, and today I'm with Brother Staten. He is a pastor in Washington, D.C. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and I'm just very grateful that he has taken the time out. So thank you so much, Brother Staten, for being here with us today. And
Honored to be asked.
thank you. We'll get started right away, but our first question is, can you describe the mission of the church? And how have you implemented a plan to accomplish this mission in your local assembly?
Well, currently,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I believe certainly the mission has never changed. It was delivered to us by Jesus himself to seek and to save the lost, to take the gospel to the whole world.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that mission is a personal responsibility for every um, disciple of the body of Christ. So how have we implemented a plan to fulfill that? Over the years, um, we've done a number of things.
Mm-hmm.
I think probably more consistent in the last few years here in DC than maybe at any other time. When I say that, we've done, like I said, we've done street ministry,
Mm-hmm.
we've done, um, you know, block parties,
Mm-hmm.
home Bible studies.
Mm-hmm.
All of them play a part
Right.
in making contacts and then leading that contact into relationship with Jesus. We currently, in the past year, our main method ultimately is a small group ministry.
Okay.
At the same time, it all goes back to how do you meet people, how do you make contacts, and then how do you lead them
Right.
into this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just, when you call me, we have been working on this.
Right.
But I've actually felt very compelled this year for us to do a planned method to, there's, for example, DC, inside just DC, that doesn't include Maryland or Virginia, that's inside the Beltway. In the DC metro area, which includes, some areas outside the Beltway, but they say there's right at 6 million people.
Wow.
So the overwhelming thought is, really, how do you reach 6 million people?
Yeah.
Right? So inside the Beltway, statistically, you can look up the demographics, although I think it is changing. I think the number is there's 131 neighborhoods.
Wow.
And so we have broken it down that our desire and our goal ultimately is to have a home group in every neighborhood. Even at that rate, some neighborhoods in the city, for example, Columbia Heights is a neighborhood. Right. It's adjacent to Adams Morgan, to Mount Pleasant, both of them. But Columbia Heights has over 10,000 people.
Wow.
Within 3 blocks, 4 blocks.
Wow.
So,
It's quite the thing to implement.
yeah. Well, it's so. How do we do this?
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I'll give you our plan. How that all turns out, we'll see. But I have in the early days, it was just on fire, go get them.
Yeah.
There wasn't really a kind of a method to my madness.
Yeah.
I just thought everywhere.
Yeah.
But I think, and especially with some of the things we're faced with today, how we make contacts, and then how do you develop that contact into a friend, and then how do you develop that friendship into a disciple?
Right.
All of those are parts of
Mm-hmm.
of the need.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you that we have it together. I think in August, in prayer, we were really concerned about, because we've moved into that, the theater,
right,
on Catholic University campus, right? Seats 700.
Mm-hmm.
And though we have our Spanish ministry with Brother Garza, they have about 80 or so.
Mm-hmm.
They meet in Columbia Heights. And then our daughter and her husband, they took a group and they started to work kind of outside the Beltway. But so we have multiple works.
Mm-hmm.
When we came to the city in about 11 years ago, there were no United Pentecostal works inside the Beltway, Virginia or Maryland side.
Wow.
So, and I don't criticize that. I think it's just the overwhelming need is the people have multiplied in like they've migrated here so quickly.
Yeah.
So, with that said, we did street services, I think, first, and we had a youth groups that would help us get in the streets and distribute invitations. And I know that people have different. My opinion is I'll try anything.
Right?
But I do think what I'm about to tell you, I feel like the Lord really has talked to me about for us for this year. In August, through a season of prayer, felt like the Lord spoke to me about how we were going to even reach the neighborhoods. It's a great dream, but until there's action, it's just a dream.
Right.
So we did have a dream. We still have the dream to at least have a Bible study or a small group in every neighborhood. Wow. But how to make that happen is quite the challenge.
It'll take some time, for sure. Well, that kind of leads into the next question. What are the challenges to realizing the mission of the church from your perspective?
Well, here's what we're doing now. As from March through September, part of the challenge is in D.C. They have, for example, they have a law that you're not allowed to preach on the streets or whatever, solicit. Right. But you can get a permit to demonstrate.
Okay.
So we get a permit to demonstrate.
Okay.
And then starting the 2 week.
It's very good.
Yeah. 2 weeks before Easter, we will start
demonstrating.
Well, actually, what we're doing, it's under that permit, obviously, but what we're going to do, we're going to focus on 3 neighborhoods, which is small in comparison to the great need, but at least it's a start.
Yes, focus.
And then we have teams that have signed up, and the last 2 weeks of March, that will be divided into 3 teams to go into the 3 different neighborhoods: southeast, northeast, and northwest. And when I say that, it's still overwhelming,
right?
But because there's still so much of it that we're not reaching. But at least we're going to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So what our plan is to do 12 weeks of from March to the middle of September. We will do 12 weeks of a consistent going back to the same neighborhood, three neighborhoods that we will, and ultimately our objective is to have a small group to build a small group in those neighborhoods. But it will start with our theme for this year is serve all, save some.
Okay.
And that's really not
I
meant.
like that.
It's not meant to be negative.
No.
It's meant to be. We know that because it's overwhelming,
Yeah.
the task before us,
Mm-hmm.
that we're going to do our best in that neighborhood. Like our first 2 weeks will be distribution of information that just lets people in the neighborhood know the name of the church, Living Hope.
Yeah.
It's 2 weeks before Easter, so in those
Yeah.
2 weeks, we're going to distribute invitations to come out
Right.
Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
The third visit to the neighborhood will be what we call the street cleanup,
Mm-hmm.
and the group in that neighborhood will just do just that.
Mm-hmm.
They'll go through the neighborhood and pick up the
Mm-hmm.
trash. They will then go back through the neighborhood with cards telling them
Wow.
a little information about the church, that
That's
we're
great.
here, we want to be a help to you.
Mm-hmm.
Here's our church phone number, our church address, and if we can be of any help, call us, right?
Yeah.
Well, then the fourth week, we are going to do loaves of bread.
Okay.
We're going to take a loaf of bread to every house,
Wow.
and it'll be wrapped in a wrapper that says, "Do you know the bread of life?"
Mm-hmm. That's good.
And-
I like that.
And then the next week will be the fifth week will be bottles of water,
Okay.
and we will go to every door leaving bottles of water
Mm-hmm.
with wrappers on them. Have you met the living water?
Wow.
And again, going back to the same
Mm-hmm.
houses repeatedly, the same.
Right.
All right. And our goal certainly is for the people begin to meet the people
Yeah.
and build at least a contact.
Yeah.
And then from the last 6 weeks, we are implementing a program that actually in the 70s, there was a program called Enroll to Grow.
Okay.
And it was actually designed by Ed Harper out of West Virginia. And I called Ed and got permission
Mm-hmm.
for me to make a few changes in it. But and what you do is you go back again multiple times.
Yeah.
Like one particular week, and I think I left this one out, where we go in and we do prayer walks
Mm-hmm.
to begin
Mm-hmm.
to, pray that the Spirit
Yeah.
will open the door to meet people in
That's
the neighborhood.
wonderful. That's incredible.
Then those 5 weeks that remain, we will go back with literature about the power of prayer,
Mm-hmm.
about faith, about ministry,
Yeah.
how that ministry can, if they haven't, it wraps up with the last 2 weeks of offering them an opportunity to become a member of our Sunday school,
Okay.
which will offer to them then a minister if there's if they need a minister for a funeral,
Mm-hmm.
if they need prayer, somebody's in the hospital, and ultimately on the last week, which is the 12th week of all of this, we will go back with a survey door to door and try to get as many as we can to sign up as a Sunday school
Mm-hmm.
member of Living Hope.
That's awesome. That is quite the feat to begin.
But it's if our teams buy into it,
Yeah.
that's the key. Jesus said laborers, and
Yeah.
it still hasn't changed. It's still
Yeah.
the need
Still
our
the same.
laborers.
That's wonderful.
So anyway, the obstacles certainly are people. Having the people to buy into it. 12 weeks is quite a commitment.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is at least get them to commit to 5 weeks. They will
Yeah.
all receive T-shirts
Mm-hmm.
that basically say "Serve all, save some,"
Yeah.
and
I love that. I love that.
design over 12 weeks to make friends,
Mhm.
connections, Bible studies, and Lord willing, we will establish 3 new small groups,
Mhm.
um,
In those communities.
which would take our number to 30.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, even when I talk about it, it's still I know it's a very slow process. It's not quick. It's not just get them to come. It's not
Right.
mass evangelism. It's
Right.
very one-on-one ultimately.
Creating. Well, And has your approach to discipling new believers been effective?
Well,
It
we
seems
have
like
two.
it has.
Well, we have two. It has, but there's two different methods of I'll say discipleship.
Mm-hmm.
Another term that is used quite frequently today is mentoring, and I think uh, I think like many times the people that I mentor, I start before they're ever maybe even in a Bible study,
Right.
but it's building a friendship.
Yeah.
My wife and I, that like the group on Monday nights now, it's kind of a group thing, but we both teach in that study now, and we connect. I mean, she fixes them a meal every Monday night.
Yeah.
So
it's a really good meal too.
Yeah. So we have that mentoring process is mentoring into leaders. A group that previously most of them didn't know the Lord, and now they have progress. So the discipleship continues through the process of mentoring. Yeah. And of course, then the other, like most, we do have discipleship courses. I'm sure it's just common 101, 201, 301, 401. And all of our leadership, we have now completed 3 of those. I think in April will be the level 4. Wow. And so we do, obviously, the Bible study never stops. Yeah. That's part of discipleship. That's good. But it's not just the teaching. It's, I think, the old saying, some things are caught better than taught. I think when we meet with these, my wife has one young lady who, married. Some of the people are, really, really accomplished in their education and their jobs, very intelligent, right? And yet, when it comes to the work of God, it's a different field. It takes a more certainly the information of, and I hate to use it that way because discipleship is more than information. Right. But I've seen a lot of people go through 101, 201, 301, 401, whatever. I've seen them go through Search for Truth and Exploring God's Word, and still not retain them. Right. And I think that Jesus in John 4, actually there's a word that's used there when he went alone with his disciples, and the Greek word is diatrebo, which means it's like when you're with somebody, your spirit rubs off on them. Right. Jesus didn't just meet alone with his disciples for the purpose of giving them information, but he wanted them to capture the spirit that he had. Really so I think discipleship involves both. Yeah. I think certainly people need the knowledge, but at the same time they need a passion, and that passion is not just captured through a lesson, a Bible lesson. So anyway, that's
really good. Yeah, and it seems to me like you make disciples to make disciples to make disciples.
Yeah,
so
that's
to continually reproduce yourself.
Yeah, well, we
with
hope.
Other people. Yeah, hopefully.
It's just like I'm at a different stage in my life, and when I look at you, now not just your generation, but my grandchildren, now my great grandchildren. Right. I don't want them to whatever be left hanging. Whatever. I don't want them to miss out on the personal experience with Jesus. Not just. I believe that going to church and having Bible study and Bible quizzing and all those things, they affect the mind, and the spirit, of which develops a conscience. But you still have to have your own epiphany. You must have your personal encounter with Jesus. And I can't leave that to chance. Not for my children and my great-grandchildren, not for the people I pastor.
Right.
I try to pastor.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny.
And I don't fault them. I think we try to work at what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's good. Our last question today is, what additional tools could be helpful to churches in reaching, developing, and empowering new believers for the mission of the church in your receptive community?
well, laborers, number one. But, laborers who are, when I say this, I know it's true. That doesn't mean I know how to do it.
Right.
But, Ephesians, Paul talked about people being equipped for the ministry.
Right.
And that equipping's, it starts like, do you know how to pray? Yeah. Right. It's not just all of a sudden, do you know how to go tell somebody about Jesus? Yes, of course, that's a priority, but prayer so that your own salvation is, sorry. And okay. I know, you know what? I feel bad. I ought to make you redo this.
No, you're good.
We were just working in the garage, so I putting some stuff away.
You're fine.
Yeah, that'll be typical me.
That'll be everyone's favorite moment.
I think laborers, people, number one, more than money. Of course, money, to some degree, always plays in a need. Yeah. And of course, buildings, places to meet. For example, when we do our plan is to have Daughter Works, but finding a location. For example, when you drove over here, I don't know how many neighborhoods you drove through, but right, and I go look at everything's expensive. I go look at buildings to say, look, I have people contact me. They like to, but they said, I'd like to learn how to start a church, right? And I'm willing to help. Yeah. But I think part of it is mentoring. I'm going to say Daughter Work pastors. It takes a location. It takes I don't know how you teach. Again, I think this goes back to that mentoring thing. I don't know how you teach people to make friends if their whole life they've never learned how to make friends. Right. You follow me? But at the same time, I know it's an essential part. You must make contacts in order to take it further. But so I think people, whether it's laborers who come, oftentimes move-ins. Yeah. I think when I have been, especially the last couple of times I've been to Youth Congress, look in the eyes of all those kids, and they really have a desire to do something. Sure do. But I don't believe we have been good. When I say this, I'm not really trying to be critical, just stating the fact that I'm not sure that we have been good at offering them the opportunity. I don't, unless I went to Bible school at, back then it was WABC, now it's CLC. And I don't I think many times the instructors in the schools are trying to do their best to equip the young people for what we call church, our church, right? But I don't know that we equip them for their personal devotion. And I'm not saying maybe today it's a little different, or I'm not sure that we equip them for evangelism, reaching the lost, how to make friends. And again, when you say something, you ought to at least have a way to make that happen if you believe that. And I can't tell you that other than, we've had numbers of interns. That's what we call them.
We will have to stop soon.
You done?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's all right.
My computer is acting up, but Brother Staten, thank you so much for your time. And
Are you sure?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
no, this is great. This is like the best ever. So I really appreciate everything that you've said today.
Well,
and it'll help me and my class.
well, I hope so.
So
I hope so.
we'll just write all down everything that you said in our notebooks and teach it ourselves one day. And people will think we're really, really smart. So,
You are smart.
So,
But if we could
thank
learn from
you.
that, all of us, if we had a way to learn from the past.